All right, let me get to some of these questions that I got the other day off of my 8 weeks of keto. First up is Nathan, and he says, I'd be curious on what the hardest part of it was, and did you have any results or side effects that maybe you didn't expect? You know me, I'm big on keto and intermittent fasting. Some bodies are just meant for it. I absolutely agree that some are meant for it, and I think that some people can handle carbs way better than others, and that probably just boils down to genetic factors. Results or side effects? Nope, it just happened a lot quicker this time. Everything else happened pretty much like it did last time. It just all went much, much faster. I think that has to boil down to with Palumbo's diet. The first time that I did it, I was eating 6 meals a day, 3 shakes, 3 meals. There were also cheat meals every week after the first 2 weeks. So I'm sure that slowed things down a little bit. Probably also helped me maintain my strength a little bit more. But in that, it's going to slow it down as well. The hardest part was absolutely mental. I can't diet until I'm ready in my head. The other aspect of that is I've spent a long time trying to be bigger and stronger, like decades. So anytime I go the opposite direction and I start dieting down, losing a little bit of strength, size, all that, very hard on the old noggin. So that was definitely the hardest part, but everything else went extremely smooth and much better than I expected this time around. The big difference between Palumbo and what I'm doing now, again, the 6 meals, the cheat meals on Palumbo, and different macro breakdowns. So I had my protein up around 300 grams when I was doing his, and somewhere between 10 to 15 grams of fat per meal. This time, my fat intake is probably close to 200, and my protein intake is maybe down around 100. So tremendous difference in that regard. So this is more standard keto diet, where his was definitely like a modified type of thing. Kenneth, how has your strength held up? Not fantastic, but that comes with a little explanation. I don't believe it's due to the calories or the restriction in carbs or anything of that nature. The old powerlifting adage is the truest thing I've ever heard, which is mass moves mass. And that's a very true story. So even if you're holding fat around the joints or fluid, both of which I'm getting rid of, that's going to help your leverage in any lift that you do, especially bench press. If you want to get your bench up, add 10 pounds of body weight. Your bench will go up almost every single time. So I'm down almost 23 pounds, so I'm definitely going to get a little bit weaker. I've got some nagging injuries. That's going to play into effect a little bit. I'm older than the last time I did the diet by almost a decade, so that's going to play into it a little bit. And I guess goals change a little bit, so I'm not really trying to get 600 pounds up on my back and do squats anymore. I miss it for sure, but it's just different now. So I stay as strong as I really need to, I guess. And I could do some things. I could do some things different. I could train a little bit heavier. I'm not training as heavy, meaning rep range wise. I could do so more consistently, which I'm not doing because I enjoy going in and trying to get a pump, like on arm day versus, a big heavy squat day or something like that. So I could do those things different, and I think it would make a big difference. Scott, is there a certain level of fitness you should be at before starting? Absolutely not. The more unhealthy you are at the minute, then the more you have to gain by starting right now. It's very easy to jump on this style of diet. There is a ton of information out there. As I have mentioned, I would follow Dr. Berg on YouTube as well as Thomas DeLauer on YouTube. They have some excellent videos. DeLauer references other things aside from just keto, so make sure you are paying attention to what you're watching. You're looking for the keto videos, not necessarily performance and that kind of stuff. Make sure if you do start, your fats and your MCTs are extremely high in the beginning, because that will help you avoid the whole keto flu thing and get your body transitioned into burning fats much quicker. Once you're there, about 2 to 3 weeks in, then you can start removing some of those fats, and your body will be forced to rely on its own body fat for fuel, and that's when all the magic starts happening. So no specific level to be at before you start. Just get it going. Sandy, from what food sources do you obtain your fat grams from? Nuts, avocados, olives? I hate olives, so I don't go that route, but yes, they're okay. Avocados are tremendous because of the MCT content. So again, they're going to jack up ketones a little more than your other fats, like your saturated fats and stuff like that. So avocados are great. Nuts, the two best ones would probably be pecans and macadamia nuts, which I have quite a bit of macadamia nuts, not so much pecans, just cause. A lot of grass-fed butter, coconut oil, ghee, red meat, and whole eggs are pretty much my fat sources. Sue, how do you calculate how many macros you needed? I only calculated it once, and I wrote down the numbers, and then I never looked at it again. So one of the cool things about this diet is you don't really have to count all that stuff out. The big thing, as I just explained to Scott, is right in the beginning, you want to make sure that you're getting plenty of fats, especially MCTs. So your avocado, your straight MCT oil, or your coconut oil, or better yet, one of each all day long. So jacking up those MCT oils and your MCTs in general is going to help your body to start producing those ketones, which is what your body is trying to start converting for fuel. So if you can get a lot of those in right in the beginning, again, it makes it much easier to tell your body that you want to burn fat for fuel. So then when you're 2 to 3 weeks in, everything just flows nice and smooth, and you can take out some of those fats and some of those dietary MCTs, and your body will start using its own body fat for fuel. So that's the big thing. You're going to want to keep your protein somewhere around 0.6 grams per pound of what your goal weight would be. So assume you want to weigh 120, you want to multiply 120 by 0.6, and that's how many grams of protein you're trying to get per day. And it's not really as high as people think. A lot of people, they think all this red meat and bacon and stuff on keto. I guess that's one way to do it. It's not particularly what I'm doing right now. My protein intake is actually way lower than what most people would think, or what I'm kind of known for a little bit. But it seems to be working tremendously well. So I would really just concentrate on the fat content and make sure that it's high enough right when you start out, or it's going to be very hard to stick to. Dan, what exactly does fasting add or do as part of keto? Fasting and keto both work on the same mechanism of getting your body to burn ketones for fuel instead of glucose. So in one of them, you're feeding your body fats, which is a ketogenic diet, and in the other one, you're just restricting food in general, so you have no dietary carbohydrates coming in, so your body has to start to rely on its own fuel source, which after 3 days or so, when you're out of glycogen, would be body fat stores. So they both work kind of in the same way, which is why I feel they work so excellent together. I'll go more into that in a minute. How many days a week do you fast? Personally, myself, only 1 to 2. I generally like a longer fast on Saturday because it just works well with my schedule. So I just do that. Some people like to do like every other day, or like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but maybe a little bit shorter. That might fit your schedule better. It really just depends on what works for you, because that's what you're going to stick to. Minimum and maximum hours of fasting. So the minimum amount of time you really want to go is about 16 hours. That's when the benefits are really going to start to kick in a little bit. But again, that's the minimum. So every hour after 16, the benefits are exponential. So it's good if you can start cranking it up to, 18, 20 hours would be great. Maximum hours of fasting is a whole nother ball game and a whole different video that you could look into. People have done 28-day fast, 30-something day fasts, really just crazy numbers. That's a whole different ball of wax and nothing that I'm particularly interested in at this time. I did do a 48-hour fast, and it was extremely easy for me, and I'll explain that going back to the other part of why I think keto and intermittent fasting work good together. So on that note, ketosis gets your body to burn fat for fuel. Fasting, my primary goal is to burn body fat for fuel. So if I'm already in ketosis, and then I cut out food, dietary fats, my body will automatically start burning body fat for fuel because there's plenty of it there. It's used to burning fats. The enzymes are there. It just keeps going. Like you never missed a beat. If you're not in ketosis first, your body is using glycogen stores for fuel from the muscle, from the liver. If you go into a fast after a normal diet containing carbohydrates, it's gonna take a good solid 3 days for you to get into that ketosis state. So before good things start happening, forget about that 16-hour thing. You're looking at least 3 days before you're in ketosis and burning those fats as fuel. So you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball, having to go 3 days versus not that much time. So that's why I think they go hand in hand together very, very well. And I would definitely, myself personally, I would not do a fast unless I were already in ketosis. It just does not seem worth it to me. I know it would be harder. I know the cravings would be substantial. I know that if you are out of glycogen and you're doing any kind of activity, which I like to do, your body is going to start breaking down muscle tissue so that it can get that energy, which I don't want to happen. All those things are avoided by being in ketosis first. All right, so that wraps up most of the questions. If I miss something in there, let me know and I'll get back to it. I'll probably just type it out, but throw it out there anyways. As for myself and the 8-week thing, I started January 6th, but I didn't weigh in, so I weighed in on the 7th, and I was 211.8. Yesterday, March 2nd, I was 189.0, so that has me at a total drop of 22.8 pounds in 8 weeks. I can't stress enough how easy it was for me to stick to it this time. I'm not done, I'm still going. I'll post a little more about that later. But the longest fast I did was 48 hours, and it was incredibly easy. I also did a couple of 20-hour fasts, and they were also no problem whatsoever. On those days that I did end up eating, obviously not the 48 hours, on the other days, I made sure to try to get in as many calories as I could, either in the day before the fast or the day of when I broke it, and the day after I tried to bump my calories up a little bit. So fasting is obviously going to be a surefire way of calorie restriction. But a big thing to try to hold on to muscle mass is to make sure that your calories remain pretty equal at that maintenance level. So you want to, I'm not doing the fasting necessarily for calorie restriction. I'm doing it for the autophagy effects that happen and cell rejuvenation and all that stuff. So that will happen regardless during your fast. So then after that, I try to get my calories in to make sure that that muscle is still trying to hang on there as best that I can. So I'm using it for, people do fasting for a lot of different reasons. So I'm doing it to feel a little bit better, but I'm not looking to lose muscle. So when I get my calories in, I have to try and make sure that they're up high enough. And that's what I did, and it seemed to work fantastic so far. I'm still checking my ketone levels every Friday, and they've always been in ketosis, right where I need them to be, between like, I don't know, anywhere between 1 to 3 is fantastic. 1.5 to 3 is the sweet spot. I think one day I was down like 0.8 or something like that, but that could have been a fluke in the test, or I don't know, maybe I just ate. I don't remember. But anyways, that's pretty good. I'm going to make a little bit of a change, I think, this week or next, and I'll talk about that later. But so far, 8 weeks, really, really easy. 23 pounds, fantastic. I'm not sure where I'm going to stop. I think whenever I'm happy with the physique, I don't really care so much about a number. So I'd like it to stay as high as possible because that means I held on to more muscle. But if it gets down there, so be it, and then I'll deal with it from there. And that's it. Any other questions? Fire away.